am so excited to welcome our next guest to the podcast because we are changing things up a little bit and bringing in a very, very, very special guest. Douglas Rushkoff is an author, a professor, a technologist, and the reason he's joining me here today, one of the world's foremost bunker experts, to talk about the ways in which actual billionaires, not our paradise billionaires, but our actual real life billionaires are planning for, I'm going to say but can I just say an apocalypse? Hypothetical apocalypse. He's like, no. Doug, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So the first thing is, how common are these bunkers? How common are these things? What else is out there? And are they even going to save anybody?
Well, there's lots of different levels of bunker thinking, right? Okay. So the most common ones are just, millionaires and other people who buy a bunch of shipping containers and have them buried under the ground and get some alternative power source and they think they can hide under there, sort of like a tornado bunker.
Right.
But, there's those. And then there's people who just kind of fortify their existing vacation home. It's a couple of gun turrets, extra food.
You're serious?
Yeah, and then there's people who build what they really think is going to be down in New Zealand. Say more about
that, because I don't know what you're talking about.
So they build just like a compound, with a bunch of buildings and things, but somehow fortified to resist whatever they think is coming, and usually it's really just to resist us. What they seem to call it is the event.
Okay.
It's just the random thing, whether it's like in the show, a volcano, a nuclear war, or a pandemic, or social unrest, economic upheaval, whatever it is that they feel they need to protect themselves from the rest of us. But for most of these guys, it's not the event or the climate apocalypse is more the excuse to live out what's been their fantasy all along.
Which is what?
To get away from the rest of us.
Really?
To have their secret little clubhouse. Boys and their toys and their robots and, to get away. So there's big communities they're trying to build out in the ocean. They call it seasteading, where they put all these kind of rafts out in the ocean. Yeah, like Waterworld.
That was a hot one.
Yeah, but if they go out there and can create their own sort of island nation on an artificial island out in the ocean, then they can do unregulated cloning experiments and all sorts of other things.
This is really happening.
Of course this is really happening. Right. That's why it's interesting. You don't need the apocalypse or the event to see what's happening on the show. Right? It's sort of happening in real time. There's billionaires who have been trying to buy up land in the Bay Area to build something they're calling California Forever. It's a protected billionaires city near San Francisco that they could live in. And they use arguments like saying, we're doing research on regeneration and solar power and all that. But it's really a planned, gated community city. Because the way that their scenarios are looking at the future, these supposed tech visionaries actually have lower sights than higher ones. That's the thing about Sinatra, that she, because of global crisis, she can imagine a city of 25,000 people that survives under the ground.
Right.
More easily than she could imagine, how could we change the way we live in order not to need to escape from all this.
Right.
It's so much easier to change our behavior and make this world livable than to push through as we are so that only 25,000 people can die underground instead of on the ground.
Well, what happens to the rest of us in all of these scenarios?
Well, that's the thing. That's what even the show has the same mentality of the billionaires, which is that although it looks in season 2 more optimistic than them.
It looks very optimistic.
Right, because it's what the billionaires believe is they've got to escape. They've got to use whatever money and technology they have to escape from the impact of the technologies and money that they've already used, right?
Okay, fair.
They're trying to escape, like they've destroyed the planet with AI and everything else, so how do I get off? There's that, but the way they look at what happens to the rest of us is as if we're living in a Mad Max zombie apocalypse. That's why you have to go. Get away. And they want to get away, I think, because they're just scared of us. They're scared of intimacy. They're scared of people. They don't, you know what I mean? They've never been that social. They want to have their kind of Little Rascals clubhouse, no girls allowed, up in a, tree house somewhere. That's their fantasy is, or they just get their minds uploaded to a web server and they can just live in a clean video game and not have to deal with the messiness of human interaction. So this is their fantasy.
And they have the money to try to make that happen.
Right. And they look at, and in order to do this, they need to see what happens to the rest of us. It's so dire.
Right.
So horrible. But for my money, let them go, so that we can not have to deal with them, and we will take care of each other. Most of us are not like that.
That was what I was going to ask you, because I've said this before.